Welcome. All right, so in this case, what I have is f of x equals x to the fifth plus 2x to the fourth plus 7x squared plus x plus 1. And what we want to do is use Descartes' Rule of Signs to determine all of the possible positive and negative real zeros. So first of all, to do this, I think the most basic one to do is when we're trying to determine the positives, because we can just take the function and just determine what are the change in signs between each one of our terms. Well, a lot of times I say drop down the signs so you can see where the changes occur. And this one's pretty obvious. You can see there's not one subtraction sign, but I'll still bring down the signs just so you can see that. And you can see there's no change of signs. So therefore, there's not possible, if you were to factor or try to solve this to find your zeros, you'd notice that none of the zeros are going to be positive. But now let's go ahead and so no positive, there's not going to be any positive real zeros. Okay, so now let's go and determine the negative. Well, to do that, what I need to do is evaluate for f of negative x. So therefore, now I'm going to plug in a negative x into each one of our function, into each input variable. So now it's going to be negative x to the fifth plus 2 negative x to the fourth plus 7 negative x squared plus negative x plus 1. All right, so you can see now my input variable plugged in the negative x rather than just the x. Now we're going to do the same thing, but first we need to evaluate our function for a negative x. Now remember, a negative number raised to an odd power is always going to remain negative, and a negative power raised to an even power is always going to remain positive. So therefore, this now turns into a negative x to the fifth. That becomes still positive, so that's 2x to the fourth, plus that remains positive, so that's 7x squared. That will be negative, and that will be positive. Now, as I drop down my signs, I have a negative to a positive, to a positive, to a negative, to a positive. So now what we can see is there are a couple changes. We have a change here, we have a change here, and you can change here. Now remember, when we're determining our positive or a negative, it's the number of change in signs minus an even number. So therefore, I can have three real negative zeros, and if I subtract an even number, which the smallest even number I can subtract from 3 would be 2, I could also have 1. So I have 3 or 1 negative real zeros. All right, so that just helps us eliminate. And if we were going to go into factor, and you're even looking at the graph of this, we know we wouldn't have to be looking into the positive side of the x-axis if we're looking for our real zeros, and that to make sure that if we do have a real zero, we did something, our positive real zero, we did something wrong. Or if we have 2 or 4 negative real zeros, then also something else is wrong with this. So that's why it helps us with the Descartes Rule of Signs. But that's going to be your number positive and negative real zeros. Thanks.